My dog doesn't want me to record this video. Come here. Hi. So there's a movie coming out in a couple weeks, September 14th. It's called The Simple Favor. It's starring Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. And the trailer didn't really give anything. I was still very confused after the trailer came out what this movie was about. So I looked into it a little and I found out that it is actually a book. So I read that book and now I'm going to talk about that book. So if any of you want to know what the book is about and what happens before you go to see the movie, then this is the place to come if you don't want to actually read the book. So Anna Kendrick is playing the character of Stephanie, and Blake Lively is her best friend, Emily. So the book opens with Stephanie posting a blog. She has a blog where she posts things just about being a mother and reaching out to fellow moms. She tells everyone that Emily has gone missing and she's asking for help. So Emily had called Steph and told her that she needed her to do a simple favor, to pick up her son Nicky from school so that she could work late and that she would get him no later than 9 p.m. Now Stephanie says that Emily is usually really quick at responding to texts, and she's constantly in communication regarding her son. So when she didn't hear from Emily, she got a little suspicious. 9 o'clock rolls around, Emily still hasn't shown up, she hasn't heard anything, so she starts to worry. She gets a hold of Nicky's dad, and he's out of the country on business, and he's kind of cold to her and just snaps and says, Emily's on business, don't worry about it. So days roll on and she still hasn't heard from her friend, and Sean, the husband, appears at home and he's like, okay, my wife's still not back? It's gotta be a problem then. You think he would have been a little concerned earlier, but maybe they're not that good of a couple. I mean, they're on separate business trips in his mind, and yet he doesn't get suspicious that he hasn't heard from his wife in a couple days. So the cops show up and they open a bit of an investigation, but they think, oh, you know what, it's probably just a runaway wife kind of deal, and they don't really think anything of it. So Stephanie and Sean, they kind of hang out a lot, they're raising their sons together, and Stephanie starts to kind of become a motherly role to Emily's son, Nicky. And there's kind of this relationship budding between Stephanie and Sean, Emily's husband. There's a bit of flashbacks going on, so we learn that Stephanie actually had a relationship with her half-brother. Through that, her son Miles was born, or at least she suspects that Miles is actually her half-brother Chris's son and not her husband Davis's son. One day Davis and Chris are driving and they get in an accident which results in the death of both of them. So there's some complicated history there. She is prone to inappropriate relationships. Now, Sean is her best friend's husband. She believes that her best friend is missing. They don't know if she's dead or alive. She's attracted to the husband and she tries not to give in to that attraction because she thinks if I ever end up with Sean, it's going to ruin my relationship with Emily going forward if Emily is alive. They found a body, it's got Emily's DNA, it's wearing her wedding ring, and all evidence points to that Emily is dead. As soon as they know that, Sean and Stephanie hook up, they begin a relationship, they move in together, they're kind of step parents to each other's kids, and that's life now. Now throughout all of this, Stephanie is still updating her blog, giving little bits of information. I know some things come in the form of her blog, but then others kind of, it's just her perspective. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be her diary or just like an internal kind of dialogue she's having with herself in the other chapters. The details dealing with her brother being her son's father and that kind of information, that is not in her blog. Her blog touches on that her friend is missing, gives information about their friendship, gives information on how they met and their history of their friendship. And after a while, she does kind of say that her and Sean have moved in together. This is all on her blog. She does talk a little bit about Nicky in her blog. She talks about how he's going through therapy and dealing with the loss of his mother. One day, she is she's tucking in Nicky, Emily's son, and he says, "I saw my mom today." And Stephanie's just like, "What? No way, kid. You are hallucinating. It's to do with your grief." And she refuses to believe because they found a body. But then it happens again. The kid says he saw his mom and that she touched them. She was at the school, through the fence, where no one else could see her, and she stuck her hand through the fence and kind of brushes his hair. And Stephanie, still very skeptical, but then she notices that he smells like her friend's perfume. And then Sean convinces her that she's crazy. He says that he has a bottle of Emily's perfume in the house, and Nicky must have just gotten a hold of it, and that's why he smells like her perfume. He refuses to believe that Emily is alive. And Miles, Stephanie's son, says that he saw Emily, and because it's coming from her own son, she believes it even more, and at the same time thinks that she's going crazy. Now, as soon as Stephanie starts to become comfortable in the home, that's when she gets the call. It's Emily saying that she is outside of the house right now looking in the window. Now, part 2 opens up with Emily's perspective. And from Emily's perspective, we learn that there was an insurance scheme that they were trying to manipulate. Sean's company offered a $2 million payout on life insurance. So Emily, who was always kind of looking for an adventure, she decided that she wanted to fake her own death so that they can get the insurance money and then flee the country and go live for a few years off that money and then figure things out from there. I think it's a really stupid plan because 2 years from now, what are you going to do? Come back to life and be like, hey, I need to work again? Short-term plan. And it just doesn't make sense. But that's what the story was. So she's pissed that her husband didn't believe her when she said, no matter what happens, don't believe that I'm dead. Get some more flashbacks. So when they first got married, they were on their honeymoon. They went to visit his mother in the UK. And she had this ring that Emily stole. And when Sean said, we have to give that back to my mother, she says, no, I'm going to keep it. Maybe I'll just tell her that I stole it. If you try to tell her otherwise, I'll just tell her that you stole it. And he's perfectly okay with that. And then they go have sex in the bathroom on the airplane home. And that's the start of their marriage. And somehow that's okay. I don't quite understand how that's okay, but that's the story. So we kind of, throughout the part 2, get a bit of perspective switching between chapters. So Stephanie still kind of thinks that she might just be crazy, that she imagined that phone call she got from Emily. But as time goes on, obviously Emily is alive, Stephanie is not crazy. Stephanie starts to doubt if Sean knows the truth or not, what's going on, and wonders if he's lying to her. Stephanie goes to visit Emily's mother, who has Alzheimer's, and she goes through some childhood photos where she sees that Emily is a twin. Now, Emily didn't tell anybody that she was a twin. She kept this a secret from everyone, including her husband of 6 years. And the body that was found in the water was her twin, not her. So we get some flashbacks to Emily talking about what happened. Her sister wanted to commit suicide. Now, Emily was able to convince her otherwise not to do that. And then she was kind of disappointed because she realized that that would affect her plans because she needed a body to fake the death. And she ended up kind of tricking her sister into still committing suicide through drugs and pills and going for a swim in the lake. Emily ends up sending a text to her husband. He meets her at a restaurant. He finds out she's alive. He says, Stephanie means nothing to me. I want to be with you. But Emily's like, it's too late. All I want is my son. After that, an insurance investigator shows up at the house, and he's talking to Stephanie and Sean, says he thinks that Emily may still be alive. Now, they have to play it cool, pretend that they have no suspicions of that, because then they could be implicated in insurance fraud. So he is aware that she had a twin sister, and he says, we don't think that that was Emily's body. We think it was the sister Evelyn. Evelyn's missing one of her front teeth. She was a drug addict. And there's just evidence on her body that shows this was not Emily. Sean's pissed because he had no idea that she was a twin, and he can tell that Stephanie was lying when she said she didn't know because she had recently found out but not trusted Sean enough to tell him. A little while later, Emily calls Stephanie and says she needs help. So Stephanie goes to meet up with Emily at this little hotel. She says, "There's a man following me, and I need your help." She lies and tells a story that Sean was abusive and that's why she ran away, and that all she wants is to have her son back, and that she still loves her friend. All of this is Emily manipulating Stephanie. She says she's going to meet this man in half an hour to tell him her side of the story, and she asks Stephanie to come along with her as moral support, which she agrees to. So when they go out to meet him, he's in the parking lot in his car. Stephanie thinks he's sleeping, and Emily says, "No, he's dead. I killed him." And she has this big plan to frame Sean for the murder of the insurance investigator. She had Emily bring her ring back, which they had found on her sister's body because she had tricked her sister into wearing it before she committed suicide. She puts the ring back on. She has a brush from Sean that she had Stephanie bring. She puts some of Sean's hair in the man's vehicle, and they push it over a cliff. The car catches on fire. They say, "No consequences," and they leave and go on with their lives. Now, a little while later, Sean comes home. Emily and Stephanie are both in the house, and they come at him with these accusations of spousal abuse and that he needs to leave, or they will go to the police with this information. If he leaves and lets Emily have Nikki all to herself, then they'll just say that it was a big miscommunication. She went to grieve the loss of her sister, and her husband went into panic mode when Emily was not home. There ends up being the story posted online that everyone is seeing. It's from Stephanie's blog, and it's about abusive husbands, and she even calls out Sean in the blog post. So he plans on getting a lawyer, and his boss tells him, "You know what, you're going to actually go work on this business deal in some other country to kind of get him out for a little while." So he does, and Emily is home alone with their son, and she plans on filing for divorce and trying to get full custody of the son. And then the cops from earlier show up who are doing the investigation, and they're talking to her, and she's apologizing, and she's manipulating them even. She even says she's flirting with both of them so that she can control the information. She works in PR, and she mentions that quite a few times in the story. It gets a little repetitive, actually. So the police say that they think that the insurance investigator's death seems suspicious. They don't mention that they found Sean's hair anywhere near it, but they did find Sean's mother's ring, which was Emily's ring. Now, she immediately comes up with this story that when she was gone, she tells them how Emily and Sean had hooked up and how he had proposed to her with his mother's ring, her engagement ring that was found at this crime scene. She's framing Emily for the murder. The cops leave. She thinks it's so that they can go get Stephanie. She's not quite sure, but she assumes that's the situation. She gathers her son's clothes and stuff, packs a bag, and decides they need to leave. And that's how it ends. So the movie's coming out in a month, and I'm just kind of curious how similar to the book it's going to be. This book's very similar to Gone Girl. Both women end up not being dead. It's told in multiple sections with like alternating perspectives. Instead of diaries, we have blogs, and both women kind of end up with everything they wanted. So, yeah, very similar. All right. Bye.